We've already looked at 3 construction sites today but couldn't find any suitable work. It's not that the men are lazy or that we're being picky with jobs, it's just that business owners are so hard to work with these days. Either they only pay you 60 to 70% of what you earn, or their quality standards are so strict that it's impossible to meet them. It's just that work is more demanding and money is harder to earn now. There's nothing we can do about it, and it's pushing people over the edge. Seeing my man going from one site to another, trying to find work, really breaks my heart. As a woman, I feel so helpless, like I can't do anything to help him. It's incredibly tough for men right now, and I really feel for them. Many men are simply doing their best. They're not lazy. They're just trying their hardest, but there's truly no way out for them. Society has gotten to this point, and what can they do? If they can't make money, there's nothing they can do. It's just too hard to be a man. In 2024, migrant workers are facing increasing challenges in finding employment as job opportunities become scarce. Videos show large crowds of these workers at labor markets struggling to secure jobs. Despite their efforts, many remain unemployed, and they can only stand around in hopes of opportunities that never come. Even when migrant workers do find jobs, their wages are extremely low.
The construction industry has also cooled down. If you're from a rural area and have relatives or friends working on construction sites, you'll notice that many of them are out of work now. They work for half a year and rest for the other half, and some can't even find work on sites anymore. Workers' wages have been cut significantly. Bricklayers, who used to earn 400 a day, are now getting 300. Carpenters' wages have dropped from 350 to 280. Rebar workers from 360 to 300. Male laborers 200, female laborers 180. Even excavator and dump truck drivers' wages have been reduced. You couldn't make much money in a year to begin with, and now they're doing the hardest jobs for the least pay. The slump in real estate has really affected a lot of people.
The ongoing economic decline under the Chinese Communist Party has led to widespread unemployment and wage cuts among migrant workers. Chinese authorities recently issued a document claiming it will launch a large-scale urbanization of the migrant population over the next 5 years, drawing significant public attention. On July 31st, the CCP's State Council released a document titled the 5-Year Action Plan for a New Urbanization Strategy, stating its goal to better integrate the migrant population into urban areas. The aim is to raise the urbanization rate of the permanent population to nearly 70% within 5 years. The CCP's plan includes provisions to relax residency restrictions in all but a few megacities, and to implement a household registration system based on regular residency. The plan aims to completely remove residency restrictions in cities with fewer than 3 million people, ease conditions in cities with populations between 3 and 5 million, and improve the points-based residency system in megacities with more than 5 million residents. This aims to encourage the elimination of annual residency quotas. Analysts believe that when the CCP refers to a few megacities, it basically means Beijing. Beijing's residency point system has been tightening year by year. According to data from the Beijing Municipal Human Resources and Social Security Bureau, in 2024, over 100,000 people applied for points-based residency, but only about 6,000 ultimately qualified. The new plan focuses on regions like Hebei, Anhui, Shandong, Hunan, and Sichuan. Chinese authorities have mentioned that this new plan aims to stimulate consumption and investment, which they also claim to have, quote, vast potential for domestic demand. Analysts suggest this effectively means the CCP is using household registration reforms as a way to extract new wealth. According to the Chinese government's estimation, each 1% increase in the urbanization rate could generate over 2 billion yuan in additional annual consumption demand, potentially driving new investment demand of up to 1 trillion yuan. Associate Professor Feng Chongyi from the University of Technology, Sydney, stated that the Chinese government has relaxed residency restrictions, allowing farmers to move to cities and purchase homes. Previously, different regions had their own approaches. Now they all must apply the same measures, though with some conditions. Only a small portion of the population is eligible for residency at the moment. Fun said China is currently facing three major crises: a real estate crisis, a financial crisis, and a fiscal crisis, particularly at the local government level. The Chinese government has no effective solution because money has been drained and there are no saviors to revive the real estate sector. So they are now turning to rural areas, especially targeting those who have earned some money in the cities, to serve as saviors. This is an emergency measure where farmers who still have some money are encouraged to move to cities and buy houses, helping the Chinese government to mitigate these crises. In the early years of the CCP's rule, a strict household registration system was implemented, restricting population mobility. This system disadvantaged rural populations in the allocation of welfare resources, effectively making them second-class citizens. There have been calls to abolish the household registration system for decades. In November 2013, Chinese authorities proposed accelerating household registration reforms, but the progress over the past decade has been limited. The reform measures announced by the National Development and Reform Commission on July 12, 2022, and the Ministry of Public Security on August 3, 2023, are similar to this year's new plan. A legal scholar, China, using the pseudonym Yang Chun, stated that the household registration system is a dual-track system of urban and rural development that began during the Mao Zedong era. He compared the current 5-year plan to former CCP leader Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up policy, suggesting that the CCP has no other choice. The economic downturn from the 3 year of strict lockdowns coupled with reckless spending on foreign aid and monetary diplomacy has severely drained China's economy. Now, the authorities are seeking new sources of economic growth by encouraging farmers to move to cities and boost urban economies. Professor Xie Tian, School of Business professor at the University of South Carolina, Aiken, remarked that China's first official policy document each year always claims to address the three rural issues: agriculture, rural areas, and farmers. However, these problems continue to persist year after year. The Chinese government has never genuinely sought to improve the status of farmers. If real household registration reform were to occur, farmers and all citizens should be allowed to move freely, and no cities, including Beijing and Shanghai, should be excluded. Xie stated that the CCP's new urbanization of the migrant population plan is actually focused on the money and land held by these farmers. With the economy in decline, there is an urgent need to find people to absorb the surplus real estate in cities. The real estate issue is severe because it also involves financial institutions. Since it is difficult to find more people to buy houses, the government has even encouraged young people to use their parents' retirement savings to buy homes. In some bizarre cases, they even asked university students to purchase homes. However, real estate sales have not improved, and now they are turning to farmers. Xie pointed out that although Chinese farmers are not wealthy, there are hundreds of millions of them, and they still have some purchasing power. Chinese authorities now hope that these farmers will move to cities to help solve the urgent economic issue. This is their only goal. They are not genuinely concerned about the welfare of farmers or the elimination of the urban-rural divide and the backward household registration system. China's third plenary session gave local governments more power to increase taxes and engage in predatory behavior, and now they are trying to lure farmers into cities. However, Chinese farmers are unlikely to be easily deceived. Housing prices continue to fall, but no one is willing to buy. Most experts believe that moving farmers to urban areas will not reverse China's ongoing economic decline. With unemployment already high, bringing more jobless farmers into cities will only worsen social tensions. The government's plan states that farmers who move to cities must not be forced to give up their legal land rights as a condition for urban residency. These include land contracting rights, homestead rights, and collective income distribution rights. The plan also suggests making exchanging lands for compensation a voluntary rather than a mandatory process. Given the importance of land to farmers, whether they will relinquish their land contracting rights and homestead rights after moving to cities has been a key concern. Currently, over 200 million people in China have moved to cities but haven't obtained urban household registration. Many migrant workers don't meet the requirement, such as having a college degree or paying enough years into social security, so they can't get registered in the city. Some workers are also unwilling to register because there is no guarantee of housing or education for the children in the city. Instead, they prefer to keep their rural household registration to retain their homestead and contracted land. In addition to the action plan proposed by the Chinese government to stimulate domestic demand and stabilize the housing market, many local governments have recently expanded a pilot program that has been running for nearly 10 years. This program allows for the voluntary compensated exit of homesteads. If farmers meet certain conditions and buy homes in designated areas, they could receive rewards or discounts on their home purchases. A homestead is a piece of collective land under the CCP's household and land system that rural population can use to build homes without paying land fees. This land has welfare and social security functions. Houses built on these homesteads are the personal property of the farmers, but they only have usage rights, not ownership rights. In June, the government of Fenyang County in Anhui Province announced that from June 20th until the end of the year, farmers who voluntarily give up their rural homesteads and purchase homes in urban areas will receive a one-time reward of 50,000 yuan. In Jiangsu Province, Nantong City recently introduced a new real estate policy known as the 10 Measures. Under this policy, those who purchase newly built homes in the main urban area before June 30th next year will receive a subsidy of 1.5% of the total purchase price. If they voluntarily exit or give up their rural homesteads to buy homes in the city, they will receive an additional subsidy. Previously, Ezhou City in Hubei Province proposed a similar policy encouraging rural residents to buy homes in cities, offering subsidies based on the area of the homestead they give up. Chinese Business Network commented that homesteads are crucial for ensuring the well-being and stability of rural society, and they are an important resource for rural development. Therefore, homestead policy needs to remain relatively stable. Homestead reform should follow three key principles: voluntariness, fair compensation, and effective utilization. In an interview with Voice of America, a farmer from Sichuan using the pseudonym Renfei said that farmers would likely remain indifferent to this policy because homesteads are their foundation. If they lose their homesteads, they lose their roots in the countryside and wouldn't know what to do if they returned. He explained that for rural people, their ancestral home is a place of inner peace, and they would never give it up easily. He believes the government's actions are essentially uprooting the farmers. Renfei expressed confusion over the government's many policies aimed at saving the housing market. He questioned that among all the available policy tools, why did the government choose to target homesteads? He pointed out that those who could afford to buy houses have already done so, and now the government is going after those who have no demand for housing. He added that those remaining in the countryside are generally poorer, and they're often elderly people. If they exchange their valuable homestead for 50,000 yuan, it might not even cover a down payment for a place in the city. Moreover, given China's current economic conditions, finding work in the city is challenging. Rural residents who take the 50,000 yuan to move to the city may end up unable to buy a home or find a job, leaving them homeless and possibly wandering the streets. It would be better to stay in the countryside where at least they have a place to live and be put to rest. The government's multiple initiatives to encourage farmers to purchase property in cities have also sparked widespread skepticism online. Some believe this is a forced push towards urbanization, not sparing even the last bit of rural homestead land. Not only that, loosening residency restrictions mainly benefits farmers who have already purchased homes in the cities. Those young people in the villages who are willing to work or can afford to buy homes have likely already done so, leaving the remaining homesteads with little to no market value. Xie Tian stated that, in the process of bringing homestead into the market, the one who can afford to buy the land are typically CCP elites or those with connections. When farmers give up their homesteads, these lands ultimately end up in the hands of the CCP's powerful elites. Fen Chongyi noted that the authorities are trying to utilize farmers' homesteads under the guise of voluntary exit with compensation. However, in reality, various regions will use deceptive tactics to make farmers give up their homesteads. The CCP does not recognize private ownership of land. Farmers only hold the usage and income rights to their homesteads. Now the CCP blurs the lines by saying that this land actually belongs to the collective, not to you. While they can't forcibly remove you from the land, once you sign a contract to give it up, they will sell the land. This is their way of addressing the land finance crisis. However, he believes that not many farmers will fall for this deception. Veteran commentator Chai Sheng-kun told Radio Free Asia that Beijing's effort to relocate rural population to cities hold another motive. They hope to manage land more efficiently and address the current issue of abandonment or fallow farmland. However, instead of relocating rural population to cities to buy homes, it would be better to preserve the original rural landscape. At the same time, increasing investment in infrastructure would allow people in the countryside to live peacefully and comfortably in their original locations. Chai Sheng-kun added that China's urbanization process is nearing its end, and those left in the countryside are mostly the elderly, the weak, the sick, and the disabled. Moving them to the cities will only increase the burden on local governments. In the countryside, they still have this small plot of land where they can grow vegetables and grains or engage in barter. At the very least, they can maintain a basic standard of living. If these people are pushed to the cities without any source of income and facing high urban costs where everything must be bought, how will they survive? The recent CCP third plenary session claimed to have introduced 300 specific measures, with this new urbanization 5-year plan clearly being one of them. Yang Chun pointed out that while the Chinese government is loosening urban household registration, it has not provided an adequate employment opportunities for these new urban residents. Private enterprises, which could help with employment, have long been suppressed, and foreign invested companies are pulling out, leading to rising urban unemployment. The so-called urbanization and town development should not merely expand the population size of big cities. The CCP's emphasis on strengthening and growing the state-owned economy reflects a communist autocratic mindset. It hinders market economic development and the creation of sufficient employment opportunities. Ultimately, the problem must be addressed politically. According to China's official data, the average unemployment rate in urban areas in the first half of the year was 5.1%. The main sources of urban labor supply are college graduates and the 300 million migrant workers. But migrant workers, who make up the largest unemployment group, are not included in the CCP's urban unemployment statistics. Previously, the Associated Press reported that for decades, migrant workers have moved from rural areas to cities in search of work. They have labored in sweatshops, built apartment buildings they could never afford, and contributed significantly to China's transformation into an economic powerhouse. However, as these first-generation migrant workers age, they struggle to find jobs in a slowing economy. Many are financially strapped with little to no pensions and are forced to keep working. Now, with China's economy slowing and an oversupply of labor, migrant workers face shrinking job opportunities and significant wage cuts. The South China Morning Post reported on February 27th that a businessman named Xu, who runs a lighting product manufacturing and export company in Zhejiang, admitted that his company has fewer jobs opening due to reduced export orders. Despite this, a large number of migrant workers continue to flood in. A recruitment agency worker named Li in Guangzhou revealed that with the oversupply of labor, this year's hourly wage for temporary workers in Shenzhen and Guangdong was generally dropped to 18 to 19 yuan, about 30% lower than the same period 3 years ago. He noted that one reason for the weak demand for labor is that some local factories have moved overseas, while companies with reduced orders are trying to cut costs. The report cited industry analysts who observed that businesses with some financial flexibility are increasingly inclined to invest overseas, as this is the only area where they are still willing to expand. On July 23rd, the CCP's Ministry of Human Resources and Social Security claimed that in the first half of this year, employment for college graduates and other young people was overall stable, and the migrant workers' employment was steadily improving. These official statements have been met with widespread skepticism. New Zealand-based senior journalist and Beijing Spring editor Chen Wenjiang remarked the CCP government has always lied, and now public opinion has turned against them because people are really struggling to get by, especially with unemployment. This is not something that can be covered up with lies.